Hi everyone, I felt like baking bread this weekend, so I'm taking you guys along to see what my day off looks like for a beginner baker. I made 2 types of bread this weekend. I kept seeing these 2 recipes on my feed, so I wanted to give them a try myself. The milk bread dough was very sticky at first, so I had a hard time kneading it by hand. After a few minutes of kneading, I added a few pieces of unsalted butter and worked them into the dough. This step, in my opinion, is the definition of trust the process. Kneading butter into the dough starts off messy and a little questionable, but you just have to push through and keep kneading. After about 5 minutes, you'll notice the dough becoming smoother, softer, and less sticky. Next, I just covered the dough with a damp towel and let it rise in a warm place for about an hour. The dopamine boost I got from just seeing this puffy dough was unreal. It was still a little cold here in Canada, so I learned how to use the oven as a proofer. All you have to do is put a small bowl of boiled water into the oven to create a warm and humid environment. Apparently this helps the dough rise faster. Now that I'm looking back, I probably should have kneaded the dough a bit more just to smooth it out. Each piece looked a bit wonky and I had a bit of trouble shaping them. Also, I'm sure some people can relate to this, but I have a regular 9-to-5 corporate job, so I usually only have time to bake bread on the weekends. I find that bread recipes take much longer than baking cookies or other desserts because the dough needs to rise a couple times, so making bread on a weekday can feel pretty rushed. I've done that before and I ended up going to bed around 1 a.m., which was not fun for someone who loves sleep and would do anything to get a solid 8 hours. Now I'm just going to shape all the dough and put them in the loaf pan. Here's me just so focused on shaping each dough, I just gave in to my intrusive thoughts. Look at that golden brown color. It's perfect. On Sunday, I made salt bread. Don't mind my outfit. Sunday is my reset day, so I wasn't planning on leaving the house. Anyways, I'm just preparing the dough and mixing yeast, sugar, hot water, salt, and flour. I didn't have much flour left at home, and since I needed 150 grams, I was worried I'd have to go buy more. But it turned out I had just a little over 150 grams left. I felt like I used all my luck here for the week. Once I mixed all the ingredients together, I kneaded the dough for about 5 to 10 minutes until it became smooth. And then just like with the milk bread, I kneaded in a few pieces of unsalted butter and trusted the process once again. This part took a while, but I learned to kind of mimic the motion of a stand mixer, and I like to think it helped smooth out the dough faster. In between kneading, I did the window pane test to see if the dough was ready for proofing. I cut off a piece of dough and stretched it out. If it tore like this, the dough needed a bit more kneading, but if it stretched thin enough for you to see your fingers through it, then it was ready. This is the second window pane test I did. As you can tell, it is still a little bit thin, but it's getting there. This is the third window pane test I did, and it looks like it's about ready to be proofed. I prepped the warm oven with my boiled water method and proofed the dough for about an hour. This time I not only weighed each piece of dough to make sure they were equal, but I also kneaded them a little bit more and shaped them more carefully. Then I let them rest again for about 20 minutes, the final proofing step before I started rolling them into the salt bread shape. While the dough was proofing, I cut small pieces of butter to roll into the bread later. Here's another one of my favorite steps. I could do this all day. So with this step, I learned that you're not supposed to roll them too tightly because they'll turn out dense and rubbery. The butter pieces were getting a little too soft, so I had to pop them in the fridge for a little bit. After the last proofing step, they should look like this. I sprinkled some water with my fingers and added some salt. I didn't have a spray bottle, but if you can get one, I'd recommend using it for the best results. The salt crystals wouldn't stick to the bun, so I had to press them in with my fingers. They turned out way better than I expected. I brushed the top with melted butter for the glossy look and extra flavor. These weren't as crispy on the outside as the ones I've seen on Instagram, but the inside was so soft and fluffy. They had the perfect amount of buttery, salty flavor. That wraps up my bread baking weekend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.